My guest today is Demola Olarewaju, who happens to be a strategist, political strategist and analyst with the People's Democratic Party, who also is an active member. Let's begin with how you would analyze the party's convention that held last Saturday.
Well, comparing the convention with past conventions since 1998 or 1999, when Chief Alexei Kweme headed the formation that became the People's Democratic Party, this is our most democratic convention ever. What you've had in the past has always been a situation where the president, who usually for 16 years was a member of the PDP, made his choice and every other party member had to follow that choice. As a matter of fact, the only two times that PDP had an open convention where you had the option of voting for two candidates was in I think 2001, in 1999 actually, as soon as Chief Obasanjo was sworn in, and he wanted to replace Chief Solomon La. The choice was between Chief Barnabas Gemade and Chief Sunday Awoniyi. Obasanjo supported Barnabas Gemade, who eventually emerged. And the next time we had an open contest also was under President Yar'Adua, where it was between Sam Egu and Vincent Ogbulafo, and eventually Vincent Ogbulafo emerged. So it has always been that way, you know, whoever the president supports. But this time around, because we do not have a sitting president, it was thrown open to everyone, and that's why you had a very high number of contestants, 8 contestants, you know, 6 from the Southwest, 2 from the South-South, and 1 eventually emerged. Of course, you can't rule out that politicking happened, you know, various caucuses, the governor's caucus, the Senate caucus, the House of Rep caucus from PDP, all supported different candidates. But eventually, you know, someone emerged, and I think, you know, the reaction to it from within the party has been a bit positive. You know, members want to wait and see how the tenure of Prince Uche Secondus will be, but it has not been negative whatsoever, and I'm very happy with that.
You don't find that the withdrawal of almost all the candidates for the position of PDP chairmanship shows that money and not democratic principles still governs the party?
The truth is, in monetary terms, this convention was less free of monetary influence, because what you usually have, of course, we all know the role that money plays in politics in Nigeria. But this time around, everybody who felt they had an opportunity went into the race, you know, and that's why you had 8 people contesting. But as the date drew closer, people started to see that, some started to see that, well, I really do not have a chance to compete in this electoral contest, and they started to step down. So if you say it was money, I don't see how money would have made them step down, because these are people who had spent their own money campaigning all over the country, the likes of Otuba Daniel, who only stepped down at the morning of the convention on Saturday. So the role of money cannot be removed from politics as it is played in Nigeria presently. However, this convention for me was quite democratic, in that eventually the number of candidates that made it to the ballot paper on the final day was about 4. You had Chief Raymond Dokpesi, you had Prince Uche Secondus, who eventually emerged, you had Professor Tunde Adeniro, and I've forgotten the 4th person. But eventually there were 4 who made it out of 8. So the role of money for me, it wasn't as pronounced as it used to be before. Actually, there were 3. It was just those 3 who were there. 5 others stepped down along the way. So it was Dokpesi, Secondus, and Professor Tunde Adeniro. So 3 out of 5 contesting for me, that's quite democratic. Of course, more can be done. You know, PDP needs to totally democratize the process, but again, that's a matter of it's a matter of personal opinion or personal preferences. I would want a situation where you have more delegates, you know. And then one other thing that has not been highlighted enough is the fact that there was a bit of lopsidedness in terms of delegate counts, you know, which is not a fault of anyone, but a fault of how PDP has operated before. Now, because PDP governors come from 11 states, you had a situation, and ordinarily, you know, the governor is a delegate, the deputy governor is a delegate, all his commissioners are delegates, all local government chairmen are delegates. So what you have is a situation where if PDP controls a state, where it controls the local government and the state structure, it has more statutory delegates than states that are not PDP states. So you have a state like Ekiti having more delegates than a state like Lagos, because Ekiti, all the local government chairmen, the governor, the principal officers of the House of Assembly, the commissioners, deputy governor, they are all delegates. So I would want a situation where there can be a bit more a sense of equity, you know, among all the various states. But then again, people would argue that if people have worked to deliver their own state for PDP, then it's only fair that they should have more delegates than those who have not delivered their states for PDP. So that's just one area where I would like to see an improvement.
Anyways, for me, one thing that I did find quite worrisome, you know, was that the PDP failed to tell Nigerians how it has reformed itself. Nigerians used to know that the PDP is a money-sharing party, and, you know, the PDP is filled up of most of the corrupt politicians in Nigeria. But at this convention, there was no talk of reformation. There was no talk of how PDP is organizing to come back or to take back 2019 as it claims to want to do.
First of all, saying that the PDP is filled with corrupt politicians is a claim that I personally do not subscribe to. I'm here, I've never served in government, I've never worked for anybody in government before. I've always been in private business, I've lived in Lagos all my life. I've not moved to Abuja. So, and I'm a PDP member. And you have thousands and thousands of PDP members like myself. The political elite is corrupt. My generation is trying not to be corrupt. So wherever we find ourselves, whether in Labour Party, whether in COA, whether in ABGA, whether in APC, or even in PDP, one tries not to be corrupt. So for members like myself, of course there are corrupt people in PDP, but in the same way that there are corrupt people in APC or in ABGA in Anambra State. So having said that, the convention on Saturday was purely a political and electoral business. It was not a seminar or a symposium where the PDP is expected to come and reel out those plans. It was purely political. Remember that in October 2017, we had a non-elective convention where members came round and discussed. So some of these issues were brought up, some of these reformatory ideas were brought up. The order of the business of the day on Saturday was mainly to vote in a new National Working Committee. We've had a caretaker committee for the past few months. Now, this National Working Committee is the one that will prove to Nigerians that PDP is indeed a reformed party. It is this National Working Committee that will show to Nigerians that, okay, we are ready for the business of government once again if you can trust us with power. So that will happen in the months to come, as far as I'm concerned.
We all come from different backgrounds. That's what unites us. We all know life is about freedom of choice, and money transfer should be the same way. Introducing MoneyGram My Way. Send and receive money just about anywhere, using whatever method that works best for you.
During the convention, there was a circulation, a list called the Unity List, which had Uche Secondus as chairman, and this was even before delegates had already voted. And Nigerians were wondering if this is another case of results before election. In
1999, at the Just Convention of the PDP, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo contested against Chief Alex Ekwueme. Now, a list circulated, it was purported to be Chief Obasanjo's list of ministers, and that list had a lot of northern names. You know, so what the opposing camp, we don't know where it came from, you know, it was just seen at the Just 1999 convention. And so what they were saying in that list, in essence, was that Obasanjo's government, if Obasanjo was given the PDP ticket, Obasanjo's government was going to be a pro-North government. And then somebody else replied with another list, Ekwueme's list of ministers, which had a lot of Igbo names. And what they were saying was that if you vote for Ekwueme, Ekwueme is going to be running a sort of Biafra government. These things are political. Okay, these things happen in politics. The circulation of the unity list, as far as I know, it was not the product of one man. You know, it was a carefully balanced arrangement. And so it wasn't like somebody sat somewhere and wrote down all those names. PDP is a very big party. No single person can produce the chairman of a party like PDP. When APC was an opposition party and it was still a mushroom party as at that time, APC held its own convention in 2014, June 2014, I believe, and at that time, there were 4 people running. Eventually, everybody else stepped down except the person who is now chairman, Chief John Oyegun. Timipre Silva stepped down, Sam Jaja stepped down, and then a third candidate also stepped down. Chief Tommy Kimi also stepped down. So, but APC itself has even grown beyond a situation where only one person, either a Bola Tinubu or a President Buhari, would produce the chairman. PDP is bigger than APC in terms of national spread. So this is a party where nobody can sit down and write a list. So even if you have a list like that, that list is definitely the product of a collective thing. Everybody in the party, has a candidate, and they all come together and say, okay, you deliver your delegates for me, I deliver my delegates for you. So for instance, you had on that list Prince Uche Secondus as the chairman. You also had on that list someone from Adamawa, Babangida Maina, as the deputy youth leader, a very young chap, as the deputy youth leader. You had Emmanuel Enoidem from Akwa Ibom as the national legal advisor from Akwa Ibom. You had Kola Ologbodinyo from Kogi State as the PRO. You had Senator Ibrahim Sauri from Katsina as the national secretary. So one person cannot sit down somewhere, whether in Lagos or in Abia or in anywhere, to write that list. It was a collective thing. And when they had come together, they said, okay, look, this is how we are going to vote. So you vote, your delegates vote for my candidate for national secretary, my delegates vote for yours for financial secretary, they vote for this one for treasurer, and so on. So it was an arrangement thing. It wasn't like any imposition. But the good thing is that everybody who wanted to contest and who had purchased the form was free to go into that contest. So nobody was forced to vote, and that is why you had some delegates, one of the delegates, Donald Nwachukwu, got as high as 732 votes against 1,300, which means that he could have won if he had put in more effort. So it was entirely democratic. Of course, democracy does not preclude you from having preferences, no matter who you are. So you have preferences, I have preferences. If we can come together, align our interests, okay, I'll give you deputy national chairman, you give me national chairman, vote for mine, I vote for yours, then we win. So that is what happened. It was an example of politicking, which is a normal process in democracy.
The emergence of Uche Secondus as chairman speaks a lot about the party's reluctance and maybe unpreparedness to contest 2019 presidential elections with a candidate who has a clean track record. You do not agree?
No, I don't. Because when you say that Prince Uche Secondus does not have a clean track record, I have to ask, where is that information coming from?
Spending 8 days in EFCC custody.
And the court ruled, there's a court ruling asking EFCC to pay the man 10 million naira for detaining him. So the court is owing him money. The Nigerian government is owing the man money because the court said, look, you had no right, you had no business detaining this man in the first place. Look, I can concede to you that PDP has suffered in the past a lot from negative media perception. People look at the party and say, oh, okay, well, you are all corrupt, you are all this, you are all that. But as far as I'm concerned, unless something has been proven. In fact, it came up as an argument. People were saying before the convention that candidates who have an EFCC case should step down or they should be forced to step down. And some of us came up with the argument that, look, if you go that route, what stops them from alleging that a Demola Olarewaju in Lagos, who has never held a government job before, never collected a government contract before, never done anything before with government, and they bring up an EFCC case against me, so you simply tell me to step down. What would happen if you do that? What will happen is that in 2019, you find out that they'll bring cases against all your candidates, and you have to be dropping candidates, whether innocent or not. The only place to prove that someone is guilty of corruption is not in the media, is not in the marketplace, but in the court of law. And as far as I'm concerned, no court of law has said Prince Uche Secondus is guilty. On the contrary, a court of law has said that EFCC itself did something illegal by detaining the man and that EFCC should pay him. They've not paid him yet. So maybe you should help us to ask them to pay him his 10 million naira.
Uche Secondus did say that his main task is to return the PDP to the presidential villa in 2019. How feasible is this? I mean, considering that there are lots of internal crises within the party.
Well, I don't know about internal crisis. I mean, crisis it's politics again. It's a conflict of ambition. It's a conflict of interest.
Do you think that the PDP will return to power in 2019?
Now, that process itself, is a conflict, like I said, and these things are usual in politics. Do I think that PDP will return to power? That question is up to the Nigerian people, honestly. I think if PDP shows itself within the next 1 year to be a viable opposition that Nigerians have been calling for, if PDP shows itself to be a party that has reformed, if PDP shows itself, if PDP comes to the Nigerian voters with humility and clear plans to govern, then maybe Nigerians will trust them. I'm not a prophet, I can't see the future, but I do know that Nigerians may be willing to accommodate the PDP. I haven't seen how APC has misgoverned the country in the past 2 years. So Nigerians may be willing to give PDP a chance, but the onus is on PDP itself to show Nigerians that we want you to be a part of us. And one thing that some of us have been saying within the party is that when you say PDP, people always reply power. Let it not be that anymore. It's not, PDP is not in power anymore. So it has to be power to the people. Amanda Awetu, which is what, which is what founded the party itself. It should be power to the people. You've lost the power. Go back to the people. Align yourself with the people. Join with the people, and perhaps the people will trust you once more. So at some point, perhaps Nigerians will consider us. If it's not 2019, it could be 2023, it could be 2027. But whenever it is, PDP must show itself on the side of the people and must come to Nigerian voters from a point of humility.
The PDP under its new leadership is eager to win the 2019 presidential elections, but its youth wing has died a natural death. Would this mean that the party has no plans for youth inclusion ahead of 2019?
PDP has always supported youth. We fielded the youngest gubernatorial candidate in the last election, 2015 election, Umar Nasco from Niger State, produced the youngest minister, Chika Chikelu, and so on and so forth. One thing, however, that we're hoping to see in 2017, at the two conventions, was the inculcation of a youth wing. I think it's a big blow. I feel a bit disappointed with the party, that the youth wing idea did not scale through. There was a strategy committee that had been set up, as far back as last year. So all the while that the crisis between Sheriff and McAfee was going on, there was a strategy committee that was meeting. And one of the recommendations of that strategy committee was that let there be a youth wing. And let there also be a women wing so that it can function sort of independently from the party. Those recommendations were defeated ultimately at the convention. But for those of us who are in the party who are young people, it's politics. We'll continue to play the game along with them. We'll continue to try through advocacy, through various means. We'll continue to try to show them that the PDP youths are responsible enough to have their own youth wing. And it is, of course, going to be beneficial to the party itself in the long run. And it is going to increase the exchange of ideas, the vigor with which we exchange ideas within the party. So I'm personally disappointed with that, But then again, it must be emphasized that the PDP has always accommodated youths. PDP has always provided positions for youths. A lot of youths, over 60% of those who emerged in the Akwa Ibom local government elections, on the platform of PDP, over 60% of them were youths. That election was held about 2 weeks ago. So PDP has always supported youths. But on the issue of the youth wings, I'm personally quite disappointed.
If elections were to be conducted right now, who in today's PDP would you prefer as the party's flag bearer, and why?
Because of looking at his ideology, looking at his political strength, and looking at several other factors, I would want an Alhaji Sule Lamido, the former governor of Jigawa State, as the presidential flag bearer of the PDP if it was going to happen today. Because I've always been a person of ideology, and in PDP I've always tried to associate myself with people of ideology. Chief Sule Lamido's ideology is democratic humanism, which started from the time of Sahadu Zunguru to the time of Aminu Kano in PRP and NEPU, and then came over to the time of Abubakar Rimi. And after Abubakar Rimi died, Sule Lamido became the leader of that particular ideology. It's an ideology that is pro-humanity. And I think it's an ideology that Nigeria badly needs now. Because, you have a situation where people see each other in Nigeria as, oh, you are Igbo, oh, you are a woman, I'm a man, you are Igbo, I'm Yoruba, you are a Muslim, I'm a Christian, you're a Fulani headsman, I'm a farmer, and so on and so forth. Democratic humanism preaches that, look, this person, whether the person is a woman, whether the person is a Christian and you're a Muslim, whatever, that person is first and foremost a human being created in the image of the God that you serve. So I think if we have that kind of person as at the helm of affairs of Nigeria, a lot of these ethnic crises and religious crises that we have presently, after this divisive period of the incumbent president, a lot of it would be reduced. So for me, I would want Dr. Sule Lamido to be the presidential flag bearer of PDP as of today. Regardless, whoever emerges as a PDP member, I would support anyone who emerges eventually.
Thank you, Mr. Demola Olarewaju, for joining us, SaharaTv, for this interview.
Well, I'm happy to be here finally. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We all come from different backgrounds. That's what unites us. We all know life is about freedom of choice, and money transfer should be the same way. Introducing MoneyGram My Way. Send and receive money just about anywhere, using whatever method that works best for you.